Alright, hello Guild Wars 2 gamers, Muckluck here, and today we got another episode of I Tried, where I try the Bard, or the Troubadour, the totally legally distinct Bard. The Guild Wars 2 is adding in Visions of Eternity. This is part of the Elite Spec beta, so if you're seeing this video in the future, it might be different by the time that, you are watching this video. Anyway, so the Troubadour. The Troubadour was clearly designed with a couple things in mind. It can be a damage build, it can be a support build. I am a support enjoyer, so I tried it as a support build only. I do not have any feedback on the damage version because that's not what I've been testing for the last few hours. This video is about the support version and what it's like. At the time of testing this, some folks at Snowcrows have already figured out a decent build for it, and so I basically took the knowledge that they had already gleaned and tried to put it into practice, and I'm going to show you what I got. So first off, I will quickly show the gear. I started the first fight I did, I was in full Harriers. However, I noticed I was doing like 3k damage, and I was like, all right, I'm really squishy. I'm gonna swap to like Givers or Minstrel's gear. I ended up swapping to Givers because 3k damage is not that much. Lowering my 3k damage to 2k or even 1k damage, but in exchange having the healer be hard to die, worth it for me. So we were in mostly Giver's gear with Runes of the Monk after that first fight that I did today. Transference and Paralyzation on my rifle. You notice I don't have a second weapon set. You can use anything for the second weapon set. I wanted to just focus on learning the thing with the rifle, so I didn't do that. But let's say you needed a pull for a fight, you could put a focus there. If you need a block for a fight, you could put a shield there. Whatever, the sky's the limit for the second weapon set, put whatever you want there. And we have got Relic of Febe, which means that you will give swiftness to your group when you use a healing skill. Here is our build, very similar to some other Mesmer support builds. We have got Chaos, Inspiration, and Troubadour itself. We get a lot of bonuses whenever we use Mantra of Recovery. It will do regen and condition cleansing and swiftness on the party, and the Mantra charges are pretty fast cooldown to come back up, so we get to use that a lot. For the Troubadour traits, we took Crescendo, extends the duration of boons for nearby allies. We have got Love Song, playing the harp, that's your F4, grants you Distortion. Periodically grants boons to nearby allies as the harp plays. So your F4 is Distortion for you. It's also Alacrity, which is kind of weird to have those on the same button, because Alacrity means you need to use this button a lot to keep Alacrity on your party, which means you're not saving it for when you need Distortion. Very odd that they put a spam this button as often as possible feature on the same button as a hit this in case of emergency feature. So that's your Alacrity button. Symphonic Resonance, Crescendo grants affected allies Might and Fury per instrument. And Fortissimo, after using Crescendo, gain a note every interval for a duration. Gain increased attributes for each instrument you have playing. I found that this was nice because it allowed you to basically pre-fill your notes before the battle began. If you zone into a strike or a raid, and you just immediately go crescendo, you can fill up the notes, and as long as you've got like 30 seconds before your party is going to be ready to pull the boss, you can start the fight with full notes. So we have got a golem that is set up right here. I have got quickness on me from the console, which is simulating being partied with someone who's giving me quickness, and we're going to go up to this, and I'm just going to beat on it for a second and kind of show you not the same opener as Snowcrows, because I like to open with full notes. So I start hitting the boss, I hit 2 and 3, we use the harp, and then we get a charge of this, and I'm going to use F1, and then I am going to use Almora, and then use F2, and then crescendo. Look at these mucking boons. This was such a breath of fresh air after trying Evoker. Holy crap. Let's just pause right there and just take it all in. So, wow. Oh my god. Let's go over that step by step and talk about what happened. So again, I like pre-doing Crescendo before the fight, like 30 seconds before a big pull, so Crescendo is available again when the fight starts. I don't want to start the fight without Crescendo, but it lets you start with full notes. You want to use the harp when you have 3 notes, because the harp is pumping out Alacrity, it's also doing pulse healing, it's doing condition removal, it's doing all kinds of stuff, but the main thing is it's doing the Alacrity, so you want to have 3 notes when you use the harp. You can get by doing the flute with 2 notes, and you can get by doing the lute with 1 note. However, you want to, the Tale of the Soulkeeper, will give more alacrity, plus fury, plus might, but it will give you 2 notes back if you have the lute going. So if you look at this, I'll hit the lute, it's gonna use all the notes, then I can use Almora and get 2 notes and then do the flute, for example. Additionally, your notes are your clones as a mesmer. So if I use any other things that would give a clone, and I need to be in combat for this next thing, so I'm gonna shoot this one guy one time just to get in combat. So if I do my rifle 2, that's a clone. If I use the mantra, which would summon a clone, that's another one. And I can do the mantra again, and then I can do a 3-charge harp. And then once you get your F1, your F2, and your F4 all going at the same time, which you can see on the bars above them, they're ticking down, you do crescendo, and then boon extension, fat heal, fat barrier, just all kinds of good stuff. Your stats go up, so you're better in every single way because your stats get better. The only instrument I was not using, like, on the regular was the drum. The drum is not needed for keeping the boons up, and it's a massive CC. So whenever something needed to be CC, it'd be, here come the drums, and do that, and then maybe rifle 4. And then that's 500 CC, and then 200, and if you got time, 200 again. So you got between like 700 within like a second, 900 if you got an extra second. Lots of CC. We don't have Moa Signet. Everybody loves Moa Signet on the Mesmer. However, for this, we are bringing, have y'all heard about Jenna? And Jenna basically is Chaos Aura and Distortion, which is near invincibility. I say near. I learned a lot about Distortion today. Facts. I am used to fighting against Mesmers in PvP, and it feels like when they have Distortion, they can't be stopped. But I learned a lot today, and there are some effects from PvE bosses that go right through Distortion that I didn't know about. So sometimes I would Distortion my teammates, and they would be invulnerable, but they would still be stunnable, and they'd bong, and they would get not launched away like pinballs. And I was like, ooh, should have stability there. Whoops. I thought that was going to stop that. That did not stop that. Okay, and then you gotta wait for them to come running back, stuff like that. But something that's really cool about this, and let me borrow a feature from Blush HUD here for a second. I'm gonna go into the Distance Rings add-on. Most of our songs are 360 radius, most of them. So if I do this is most of your boons and heals. Not bad. Not bad. Jenna's got that radius. So if you're like, oh my god, bad thing happening, make my party near invulnerable, that hits all the way to that outer ring. Very nice. Very good. So Jenna will give Chaos Aura, it'll give Distortion. It'll also trigger all instruments to be active. So let me turn the rings back off because they mess with my FPS a little bit. If I hit this guy, and I'm gonna reset my cooldowns, right? And let's say I'm in a normal situation. So I am going to just like charge this up. I'm gonna hit this thing. I'm gonna get like 1 clone and do this, summon Almora, do the pipe, and then I'm gonna crescendo. I've got 3 instruments out, and then I'm like, hey Jenna, notice all 4 instruments are out and we're refreshed. So Jenna will do the Distortion. It will refresh all of them. It will extend them so you're getting a ton of positive effects and boons just because you use that. But it's also a great emergency button. Just keep in mind, it has a 1-second cast time. It is not instant. You really need to know that. On top of that, on top of the tons of area healing, tons of area cleansing that you're pulsing out, tons of area boons that the Evoker wishes it had, you've got decent CC on demand, and you have 2 flex slots. This and this can be whatever you want. I like having Mantra of Concentration here, which has a basically instant stability for your party the moment you click it, and we've got feedback, so return projectiles to sender in an area. So what is the cons of this? What are my thoughts on this? 1, running it in Harrier's gear, it doesn't provide a lot of damage. Like, I would say a heal Mechanist does triple the damage of heal Troubadour. So give up on that. If you're supporting a team, I would do Givers or Minstrel's gear just to be a really tanky healer, and then they don't have to worry about their healer dying. Another thing is you really don't have a revive thing where like many healers might have a way like, oh, Billy went down, use a cooldown and get them up immediately. I didn't really have anything like that. I mean, you could bring Illusion of Life in here to, try to get back up someone with that. Illusion of Life, for those who don't know, it is a weird revive. It revives someone for 15 seconds, but then they would drop back down again. So you need to give them a really fat barrier right when they're about to have the Illusion of Life wear off so that they don't just die a second time. I don't really like it, but it is an option if you want to use it. Feedback is great because of anti-projectile. We've also got the Mantra of Concentration for stability. Mantra of Concentration, the long charge of it will give Aegis. However, the long charge of it has this long a cast time. And that was with quickness. So in combat, that's like Aegis with 6 weeks shipping. So we've got Aegis on this, and we've got Aegis on the harp, sort of, because of the distortion thing. And Jenna does the distortion thing. So it kind of felt like I really didn't have an Aegis on demand. The barrier thing got taken out. Oh, barrier doesn't save Illusion of Life anymore. Today I learned. I welcome the correction. Okay, so forget what I said about barrier saving Illusion of Life, folks. So Illusion of Life is just, it is what it is. Going back to the barrier, the Aegis thing, because you want to be able to instant stability, you're typically going to get past the first charge of Mantra of Concentration and have Power Break on your bar ready to go. So you've got that instant stability on demand. So I felt like I did not have an Aegis on demand while playing this. On the same note, though, that didn't really feel that bad because we had the emergency distortion on the really big cooldown, 75-second cooldown on Tale of the August Queen. We had stability on demand, ample stability on demand with Mantra of Concentration and Power Break. The Harmonious Harp, we are using that off cooldown for Alacrity, but that occasionally would, throw out, some defensive stuff for the team just at random moments. So we also had the barrier on demand from Singularity Shot, that's Rifle 5. You're not having to spam this as part of your rotation, so you can use this when needed to the whole group is beat up. You can just fire that as like a cushion to, help them stabilize. You're using your 2 and your 3 basically on cooldown. The 2 summons clones and does healing and regen. The 3 does Might and Fury, but if it's an emergency, you can hit the 3 a second time, give up the boons, and detonate it for a big heal and condition cleanse. I never really felt like I had to do that because there was just so much healing constantly pulsing out of me from the instruments, from the regen, from the 2 spam, from the mantra spam here. There was just so much healing pulsing out of me. I felt like the occasional Jenna or the occasional Singularity Shot was enough to have everyone stabilize after a rough moment. So in the end, you're really using most of these skills frequently, most of these, except the drum, frequently. Also, Crescendo, you're using it pretty much when it comes up. You just want to make sure your instruments are already active when you use it. But Crescendo is a massive stabilizer because it's like, let me heal everyone and give them a massive barrier and refresh all these boons and instruments. So it really felt like I was keeping a lot of my stuff on cooldown and I didn't have a lot remaining for emergencies, but it also felt like it didn't freaking matter because what we were consistently doing was just so damn good. It kind of felt like, it reminded me of Tempest. Tempest is like, there's a rhythm, like, I'm gonna go water for this, and then I'm gonna go earth for prot, and go fire for might, and back to water. And so it's like, there's this sequence, and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. If you're dead, it's not my problem. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you're just doing this thing, and boons and healing is just erupting out of you, and you're just doing a dance step and keeping a rhythm. And it's not changing a whole lot based on the situation, with rare exceptions. This felt like that. There was a rhythm to it, you would get into it, and if you were following that rhythm, things were going swimmingly well, but you did have a couple of buttons tucked away for emergencies, such as the Rifle 5, such as the Queen Jenna button, the Stability button, whatever you have here. I had feedback, but you can put anything there. There was some good stuff. A couple of other things, if you wanted to take a different relic besides Relic of Phoebe, this is brought for swiftness. You could bring Tale of the Honorable Rogue on the bar, and that takes care of swiftness. And then you could use a different relic there if there was something else that you wanted. You could also bring like Valiant Marshal just for another defensive button, stuff like that. Yeah, Relic of the Flock is a good choice, exactly. You could use Mimic and use that to like copy Tale of the Soulkeeper if you wanted to do something abusive with the notes. There's a lot of really cool options here. This was great. This was a lot of fun. What is my feedback on it? Do I have anything negative to say about it? One, the notes UI. I'm not a huge fan of this. A lot of folks have come into my chat and been confused by it. It shows what looks like what could be interpreted as 6 musical notes or 4 musical notes, and it's 3. So I'm gonna burn the notes here. If you'll watch here, I'm gonna use crescendo. 1, 2, 3. That's kind of confusing. I would recommend they change that, and maybe even put it over here above the hit point bar. And the reason for that is when you activate some instruments, you can see this glow above them, which lets you easily tell which ones are active. And I like that. I really like the UI on the instruments, but it's partly covered by the notes. In my opinion, it would be better to, one, have this more clearly show 3 and not what it does now, and 2, move it over here possibly. I don't know if they're gonna listen to me, but that's my thoughts on it. Additionally, the instruments noise is almost completely canceled out by shatters. This might get loud for a second, but I need to demonstrate something, so sort of apologize. Okay, hang on. So see, that one's almost done by the time that noise finishes, okay? So, and then one more thing, hang on. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I kind of like that little ditty that it plays. I enjoy that. Honestly, it doesn't really feel like a bard if you can't hear it, in my opinion. You're welcome to disagree. Some people would be like, oh my God, that would annoy the hell out of me if I was hearing that all the time. However, I feel like, one, it's attached to effects volume. And you have to rev effects volume all the way up to hear it, which means everyone else's weapon skills are going to be blowing your ears off. So you're never going to have effects volume up, so you're never going to hear that. Additionally, they're also on the same buttons as the shatters, which means you hear deafeningly loud shatter and then faint little awesome music ditty behind it. I feel like they should either raise the musical instrument volume, or lower the shatter volume, or remove the shatter sound effect completely and just have it on crescendo, but not the others. Or have the instruments be on a separate slider here, like Troubadour instruments. And everyone can have it on or off. I think any of that would be cool for the vibe of the class. This felt good to play. It didn't feel like a bard because I never heard music. I never heard anything musical while I was in Strikes playing this. So I believe they should do something more with the sound effects that I thought were pretty. I don't even think they need to make new sound effects. I thought those were good sound effects, but you can't hear them. You can't hear any of them just because of the situation. I think that's it. There was the Aegis thing, the notes user interface, the instrument volume. I think that's it. This was nice. This legitimately was nice. Oh, I remember one more concern. Chrono. We've got this pretty cool class here. It's very effective at what it does. It's a new type of vibe they're going for with the musical thing, although I don't think they've nailed it yet, but I think they're close. I've shown a build. It was very effective. Part of that because the rifle is already really good for Mesmer. The Mantra with all the traits that supports it are really good for Mesmer. The stuff in the toolbox, Stability on Demand, Elementalist doesn't have anything in the toolbox for that. Reflect on Demand, that kind of stuff. There's like a good toolbox here to pull stuff from, which means that the Troubadour just had to build on top of that, and they did it really well. Does it do anything Chrono can't? Kinda. I mean, Well of Precognition is really freaking good. Continuum Split is really freaking good. How does Troubadour compare to its sibling, the Chrono? I would say it's probably easier to learn based on my own hour or two playing this. I would say this is probably easier to learn. It can pretty easily pre-stock the clones when you're not in combat by just firing off a crescendo as you approach the boss. It can pretty easily stock up on clones in combat even when you don't have a target. So let's say the boss is going invulnerable and it's doing a phase change and boons are falling off the party. All right, I'm gonna shoot that guy for a second. So watch this. Without him targeted, I can do the harp, I can do another clone, I can do this, I can do Almora, I can fire this off, and then I can do the pipes. And then if I had it already crescendoed a second ago, I mean, I could still do it in just a moment here. And then we could do crescendo and we can extend that stuff and do this. I can keep all of this up without a target, all right? That is something that Chrono and Mirage might have a harder time with than Troubadour, but this is fine. This is totally fine. I can do that. It was nice on the, we were doing the strikes, we did all the daily strikes in the Iceberg 5. And, you know, when Freynier and the others would do those moments where they're invulnerable, I could easily just keep stockpiling the boons. It was no problem at all. That's it. What about the Pure Deeps version? I did not try it. I have no input on Pure Deeps Troubadour. I was entirely infatuated with trying out the support Troubadour, and it was quite nice. So I don't think I have any other input on this one. I think I've said everything I have to say. If you have any questions, problems, thoughts, concerns, or thoughts on it that I missed, welcome you to put it in the comment section down below, and I might agree with you there.